Welcome to the Hoja on Architecture podcast. Climate Responsive Architecture Chapter 5, Vernacular Architecture of Climatic Regions. According to the widely referenced Köppen climate classification, the world is divided into 5 principal climate types: cold, hot humid, temperate dry, and temperate humid. Beneath these sit roughly 30 subtypes along with numerous local variants. Over time, the architectural design criteria associated with these main climates have been established in a substantial body of research and practice. One of the 2 most severe climates is the cold zone, found near the Arctic Circle. Here, the primary criterion for climate-responsive design is to prevent heat loss, and a range of measures follows from that imperative. Imagine standing in a settlement where every wall, every surface is carefully calculated to keep warmth in and icy winds out. Buildings should be small in scale, or more precisely, composed in compact forms that minimize total surface area. Settlements are arranged to shelter occupants from harsh polar winds. Principal volumes are oriented south to capture solar gain, and buildings are spaced to avoid casting shadows on one another's southern facades. Darker external surfaces can help to maximize solar absorption. It is also worth noting that communities in these regions have historically developed strong traditions of communal building and maintenance. Shared labor was not only a cultural choice but also a survival strategy, ensuring that structures could be erected quickly in limited building seasons and repaired under extreme conditions. These practices highlight how architectural form is never detached from social organization, but instead deeply interwoven with the rhythms of community life. In vernacular precedents for this climate, the domed or hemispherical form is common because it encloses maximum volume with minimum surface. Picture the iconic igloo or quinzhee, or the conical chum tents of Siberia, structures that, though simple in appearance, are remarkable feats of climatic intelligence. The second most demanding type is the hot-dry climate, commonly associated with deserts. Although its conditions invert those of the cold zone, the core design task is again to manage heat transfer, this time by preventing external heat from entering. In other words, buildings should avoid heat gain. Compact massing that reduces exposed surface area is once more advantageous. Think of a desert village where narrow streets and clustered forms create pockets of shade, offering protection against the relentless sun. Plans are organized to limit solar exposure and to maximize shade. Wind is unwelcome here because it often carries dust as well as heat. Accordingly, primary volumes and circulation axes are turned away from prevailing winds, and openings are kept small and controlled. Wide overhangs and light, reflective facades protect against solar radiation. At the same time, semi-outdoor spaces such as verandas and courtyards provide shaded, windscreened retreat, often supported by water features to aid cooling. Because rainfall is scarce, flat roofs can be used as functional terraces. Unlike in cold regions, the pronounced diurnal temperature swing calls for materials with high thermal mass in the building envelope. Vernacular precedents offer textbook lessons in passive cooling. The Bedouin tent of the Sahara, the beehive houses of Harran in Turkey, and Iranian buildings employing the wind catcher, badgir, to draw cooler air from higher altitudes are exemplary. Another primary type is the hot, humid, or tropical climate, characterized by high solar radiation and heavy rainfall. Here, climate-responsive design must both cool interiors and remove moisture. Picture a village where houses float above the ground on stilts, open to breezes yet sheltered from storms. Wind is highly desirable. Buildings are separated to avoid one another's wind shadow. Principal facades and circulation routes are oriented to capture breezes, and large openings are encouraged. Where possible, structures are raised off the ground to promote ventilation. As in the hot, arid climate, sun is undesirable. Generous eaves and shaded outdoor spaces are therefore essential, and reflective surfaces play a helpful role. At the same time, this climate vividly illustrates how architecture interacts with ecology. Raised houses, for instance, do more than catch breezes. They protect against flooding, snakes, and insects, effectively balancing human comfort with environmental adaptation. These design strategies remind us that vernacular forms are never simply technical responses. They embody a holistic understanding of the environment that blends climate control, safety, and cultural identity. Because rain is as problematic as sun, roofs are thick and opaque with robust drainage strategies. Water features are avoided indoors because they add humidity, while planting around buildings can serve as a buffering layer. Vernacular architecture in these regions often reads as a giant umbrella. Wide, weighty roofs above permeable facades, frequently elevated on posts. The Indonesian rumah adat, the ifugao houses of the Philippines, and the Turkish serander are notable examples. The remaining two types, temperate dry and temperate humid, are less severe, so other factors tend to drive design decisions. However, the seasonal cycle becomes a key consideration and adaptive behaviors are expected. In many parts of the world, different buildings are traditionally used for warm and cold seasons, or, more commonly today, single buildings are designed with flexibility, allowing them to adjust to varying conditions throughout the year. Think of how in many Mediterranean towns, shaded courtyards are paired with thicker winter interiors, creating a seamless dance between architecture and season. It is evident that vernacular buildings are sustainable by nature and align well with contemporary, multidimensional understandings of sustainability. Beyond climate management and energy efficiency, they promote environmental responsibility through the use of local materials, supporting local producers and builders and reducing transport costs, especially for fuel, while adapting closely to the needs and lifestyles of their users. Considered in this broader frame, they address social, economic, and cultural sustainability as well. From all these perspectives, there is much to learn. If we are to shape a new approach to building production, vernacular architecture should be investigated in situ through rigorous coordinated analysis. And this is where our discussion will continue in the next episode. Having examined climate-responsive strategies across various regions, we will now adopt a solution-oriented perspective. How lessons from these vernacular traditions can inform a proposal for an urban vernacular at a global scale. This is the end of the Climate Responsive Architecture Chapter 5, Vernacular Architecture of Climatic Regions. Thanks for listening. See you in the next episode.